I went ahead and made that metal crossbow trigger, and I think it came out pretty nice. I guess I'll just go ahead and show you how I built it.
I start by making a wooden prototype to make sure all the pieces work together and to act as a template for the metal pieces I make later. The trigger piece was laid out in some 1" by 1/8" stock and an 1/8" pivot hole drilled. All the other dimensions are relative to this pivot hole. I used a 1/2" drill bit to get a round profile for the trigger. To make the spring catch, I drilled an 1/8" hole, then cut into it to make a small hook. The rest of the profile is cut using a hacksaw, files, and a grinder. Finally, I clean it up with some sandpaper and check it out on the template. The edge that interacts with the bowline catch is left proud and will be fitted and filed down later. The catch has a round profile that I mill by drilling the pivot hole, then rotating on that pivot against the belt sander. The rest of the profile is laid out from the prototype template, then milled using the hacksaw, files, and grinder, with the exception again of the bearing surface for the trigger piece. Back at the template, the bearing surfaces on both the trigger and the catch are scribed against each other and filed to fit. I make up a 1/4" thick pin block and lay out the pins from the template and make any final adjustments to the catch. The range of motion of all components is marked out on the pin block so that the width of the case can be determined, as well as the shape of the spacing blocks. The layout for the case sides is marked onto a 1/16" steel sheet and cut out. The pin block is used as a template to drill the pinholes in the case sides, and pins and clamps are used to keep everything aligned during machining. The two sides are then sanded square and flush. After aligning and clamping to the pin block, the 4 corner pins are drilled and the 2 spacer blocks drilled and cut to shape. The spacer blocks are superglued in place, then the remainder of the parts are put in place and tested. Notice the washers acting as spacers on either side of the 2 rotating parts. The pins on the off-pin block side are cut off, slightly proud of the surface. A nail set is then used to dimple the pins and expand the ends. A ball-peen hammer is used to further open up the ends. The pin block is then pried off and the same process is repeated on the other side. A little work with the file and sandpaper cleans up the piece.